Good evening and welcome to a new day. My name is Daphne Clarke-Hudson. I'm your host. I'm a life changer. I work with individuals to tap into their authentic selves and by so doing are able to live their lives with purpose and passion. Joining me for this episode is none other than the small business guru himself, Mr. Andrew Morrison from New York. Andrew, welcome to a new day.
Thank you so much for having me, Daphne.
Would you please take this opportunity to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure. Once again, my name is Andrew Morrison. I'm the president of Small Business Camp, and I have the honor, the privilege of being able to work with everyday individuals, helping them turn their passion into a profitable enterprise. And I do that by delivering a 2-day, very intensive small business boot camp. We can walk in on a Saturday morning with just the idea, and by Sunday night you have your website done, a press release, a direct mail campaign, and a package for investors, everything you need to build your business in 90 days, you have it done. And then we also give you 90 days of follow-up coaching. So every week I'm on the phone with you, encouraging you and inspiring you to higher levels of success.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Andrew, we met maybe 5-6 years ago because we both belong to an organization. And I've been so inspired by your commitment and diligence by which you work with all the people. And we're going to get into all of that. And for the viewers at home, we do have some audience with us this evening. So this is the second time that you will see some audience participation. We had that back at Christmas time when we had a show with the rabbi and the minister talking about why we believe what we believe, and we had some very, very strong audience participation. Andrew, I know that when you went to school and went to college, you did not go with small business in mind at all.
Right.
You actually did electrical engineering.
Yes, yes.
So how did you end up being so devoted and committed to small business? How did you make that transition?
Well, I tell people that you really want to remember your calling. And so everybody is called to do something wonderful and something unique. And oftentimes we get caught up in jobs, not the perfect fulfillment of our divine calling. And so what you want to do is understand the distinction between your talents and your gifts. And so I was gifted with a sense of discernment, a high degree of intuition, and also the ability to consume large amounts of data and be able to offer a workable solution. And so what I decided to do was to find a cause, a project, a business that really supports my calling. So my calling is really to inspire, to educate, and motivate others. But my engineering background still shows up because as an engineer, we don't simply look to build a bridge and it's a maybe it's going to work. That's right. It has to work.
That's exactly.
And so I take that same engineering approach when it comes to helping entrepreneurs. And so we also need to understand that nothing is actually wasted in life.
That's right.
And so even if you spent some time working as a social worker, now you're looking at building a business, all skills are easily transferable.
That's right.
And what you may find out is that you may feel as if you're going through circles and going around and around right now, but once you get to a high level of success, you look back and see it was actually a straight line.
That's right. It was a journey.
Right.
Right. Each of us in life, we have different journeys. We travel them differently. But as I tell people all the time, what are the lessons that we pick up? What are the lessons that we learn on life's journey?
But now the key thing about lessons is that lessons come in a wrapping, okay? So a lesson is actually a gift, and the gift is a tremendous blessing.
That's right.
But now how is this gift wrapped?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to suggest you the gift is wrapped in pain. The gift is wrapped in setbacks. The gift is wrapped in tears.
That's right.
And remember that the wrapping is not the gift.
Exactly.
And so oftentimes people run from their blessing, they run from their gift because they're afraid to embrace their pain.
That's right.
And so I want all of our viewers to understand the power of honoring your pain. pain.
Exactly.
And so once you honor your pain, then you're able to choose peace.
That's right.
Then you're able to ask the question, what's the real blessing behind this?
Exactly.
And what's the real lesson? And then you're able to begin to receive the gift.
That's right.
And so never run from your pain. So if you look at someone like an Oprah Winfrey, her success is based upon her transforming her pain into tremendous power.
That's right.
And so there's somebody out there who's very powerful, but they're going through some pain.
Exactly.
And the operative word is through. As long as you can go through it, it'll
Exactly.
enable you to become more successful at the end result as well.
Well said. You did mention briefly, Andrew, about the small business boot camp. How did that come about? How was that founded? And why a small business boot camp?
Right. It really came about from my own frustration in terms of seeing entrepreneurs go to seminars. They're motivated, but I check back with them a month or two later, they haven't really taken action. And so, you know, I have the privilege of traveling around the world. Right now, I was recently in Nigeria training 1,000 entrepreneurs. People look at me as a motivational speaker, but I really consider myself to be an activational speaker. You know, I really help people to take action when it comes to having a more powerful and compelling lifestyle. And so what I've realized is that in order for me to get someone to take action, I need to give them a very intensive environment where they're spending 2 full days with me, you know, 8-hour days, where we're actually working on building their dreams. Because what's happening is there's something holding them back. And the outside world tends to have its own influences that cause them to forget what their calling is. And so by being in an immersive environment, it's a very supportive environment, we're able to give them all the tools to take the next step toward living a life of passion, a life of commitment.
You speak a lot, Andrew, about underperforming asset.
Yes.
Would you like to tap on that a bit now?
Right. So I've discovered I can help anyone increase their sales in 90 days by having them first take a look at their underperforming assets. And I trust everyone has a pen out there. I'm going to give away some great advice that's absolutely free. You know, folks pay me thousands of dollars,
to get that.
and people need to, you know, grab their pen and write these concepts down. And so your underperforming assets, they consist of 3 areas, and they all begin with the letter R. The first R is your results. Okay, take a look at your past results. That's an asset that you may be running away from, a good result or even a bad result. The best example I like to use is an example of a lawyer who was so ashamed that he had to declare bankruptcy, he decided to start a consulting practice helping other high net worth individuals deal with the stigma of bankruptcy. He ended up making more money as a consultant than he did as a lawyer. That's an example of using your past results or your past experiences. And so wherever you're working right now in a job and you've got 3 years of experience, that's an asset. You know, and we can package an asset differently, make it into a book, make it into a CD. That's how to turn your past experiences, your results into cash. The next R, which is my favorite, is your relationships. All right, people often underestimate who they know or who somebody else knows. And so I help my clients make a list of everyone who you know and understand the depth of those relationships, because ultimately, you know, business is about relationships.
Oh, yes.
And all money transfers hands for one reason and one reason only. I want people to write this word down. Is based upon trust. And so everything you do in business is about establishing trust. And so if you simply go back to your past relationships, that's a wonderful way to begin to, you already have trust there. That's a wonderful launching pad for your business as well. And so the first R is your results. The second R is your relationships, and the third R consists of your resources. And so what are some of the tangible products that you own in your garage? You know, eBay is a multi-billion-dollar company that was built around a concept of underperforming resources, that there was, quote-unquote, someone else's junk was someone else's cash.
Treasure, that's right.
And so I suggested there's somebody out there that has a storage room, a garage filled with products that they can turn into cash. And so your 3 underperforming assets are your results, your relationships, and also your resources.
Andrew, in your everyday walk of life, you have encountered thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs or small business owners across the world. What are some of their greatest fears that holds them back?
Well, you know, all of us have, the 2 things that's holding all of us back is either fear or guilt. Fear or guilt. And so I want people to ask themselves, you know, what's holding you back? And there's a whole concept called emotional layering. So anytime you feel an emotion, ask yourself, what's behind that emotion? What's behind that emotion? And you'll see it's either fear or guilt. And so what we need to do is need to redefine certain words, certain terms, because I want to suggest to you that every emotion you feel is the right emotion, but it's actually the wrong label. And so I want us to do a Prince. You know, Prince changed his name, was an artist formerly called Prince. And I want you to change that emotion called fear. I want you to change that to potential energy.
Right.
That's what fear really is. So fear is actually giving you energy, telling you something wonderful is about to happen. But the reason why that wonderful thing doesn't happen is because you won't release the energy. So let's imagine a space shuttle. Before the space shuttle blasts off, it begins to shake with all this great energy. It won't blast off until the clamps become released. And so there's something you need to let go of. That's what allows you to transform your potential energy, your fear, into kinetic energy, which actually represents motion. So when it comes to fear, we need to understand that courage is your ability to act in the presence of fear. And so, you know, I'm trained in martial arts, and I've been in certain situations where I have to act very, quote unquote, courageously. And people say, why, Andrew? You know, I was kind of brave of you. And I said, listen, I was scared too, but my only difference is that I'm trained on how to act. I wasn't hiding behind the sofa.
That's right.
And so,
that's right.
And so that's a power of training. That's why I want to commend you on having this program, because all about educating people, training people in the face of fear. How do you begin to take action? And it's really all about training. And the other emotion that's holding all of us back is actually guilt. And so fear exists in the future, you know, filled with anxiety. Guilt exists in the past. And people tend to be caught up in the past over guilt, or they're caught up in the future over anxiety, over fear. And so what you want to do is to look at your past. You begin to forgive yourself. And so what's the opposite of guilt? Either somebody's guilty or they are what? Innocent. Okay? And so people want to understand that you're not innocent. Forgive yourself, forgive others, and most importantly, learn to forgive your parents.
Exactly,
all right?
exactly.
Because then you're able to move on.
Exactly, exactly. Do we have any questions from audience? I know some of the audience people are leaving. Anyone in the audience have a question?
Not yet, thank you.
Not yet. Okay. I'm not sure how many minutes we have remaining in this episode, but I just want to let the viewers know that you are out for a wonderful treat, because we're actually having 3 episodes with Andrew. And we just want to summarize episode 1. I think, what are some closing thoughts?
Sure. First thing, I like people to honor their pain. I want you to choose peace. I like people to remember their calling. I didn't say find it or try to figure out. It's something you need to remember, because I believe we live in a land of forgetfulness. We forget what we're called to do. Also want you to focus on your underperforming assets. That's the fastest way to begin to build your business, is take a look at who you know, your relationship. Take a look at your past results, and also examine carefully your past resources as well.
You said something important, Andrew, about remembering your calling. And for some people, they're probably viewing and they're saying, how can I remember something that I have not yet identified? And how could you help them to identify their calling?
I help people identify by asking them who talked them out of it. Okay, so everybody had a dream, had a passion. There was something you wanted to do as a child, but somebody convinced you not to do it because you can't make money doing that. No, you can't really make a living. And they're right. You can't make a living. You simply live a living.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
So start trying, So start trying to make a living, and you really understand that, you know, if you're called to do something, that same God that called you to do it will also equip you as well.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
And so basically, you need to begin to trust more, and begin to not simply have faith, but move from having faith to having a knowing faith. And so you don't say, I wouldn't say I have my faith in my grandmother. I know my grandmother.
Exactly.
And so you need to know what you're called to do. And your first, also what you want to do is, what are the things that you've been gifted? You know, understand that people look at me as a talent, as a gifted public speaker. I'm really talented. A talent is something you have to work on.
Exactly.
A gift is something you were given freely. And so there's some gifts that you possess, and those gifts will give you clues as to what your calling is. And so, you know, if your friends are always complimenting you on something, that tends to be a clue for what your calling really is. And the real question is, why are you running from it?
Exactly.
Because something is talking you out of it, and the world is talking you out of it. And I want to give you, ultimately, and my clients have a hard time believing this, ultimately, I give people permission to succeed.
Exactly.
Because
you know something,
nobody's
Andrew?
giving you permission and giving you a step-by-step plan on how to get there.
Yeah. And I think that women have a bigger challenge.
Right.
Accepting permission to
Right.
succeed. Men go out there and they just do what they have to do. We women, we look around, we go, we ask this person, we ask the other person instead of listening to our hearts.
Most of my clients are
You know?
female, and
Yes.
I have a special, I guess, ministry in working with women. I've been delighted to be, the only speaker at all women's conferences. I'll be one of only 3 men speaking at the Essence Magazine Women Who Are Shaping the World Conference, and I'm very direct in dealing with women. I stop certain behaviors. So I'm doing a major conference, and I would ask a question. And a woman would stand up. It never fails. And before she gives me the answer, she'd say, I'm not quite sure, but. And I would say, stop that.
Exactly.
Stop saying I'm not quite sure.
Sure.
Give me the answer. A
Exactly.
man will know we're wrong.
That's
and
why
we'll
we just
stand up,
say it.
right, and we'll give the
ego.
wrong answer,
Exactly.
knowing that
And that's
we're
fine.
wrong. Exactly.
And that's all right.
Right.
Because you're stepping out of your comfort zone.
Right. So it's really all about conditioning women to feel more comfortable in business.
Yes.
Even the way people stand, even when you approach me, don't stand toward the side. Just stand shoulder to shoulder and be more direct and be more confident.
And as I talk to women in my everyday walk of life, and you ask them, but can you remember when this started happening to you? When did you get so timid and so fearful and everything?
Right.
And you go back maybe to preschool, or we call it in Jamaica infant school or whatever, and you find out that one time when they try to answer a question and somebody beat them down, and they never recover from that. And I said sometimes, wake up and smell the coffee. You were 3 years then, you're 4 years.
Exactly.
I said, look on the woman you have become.
Exactly.
Put that behind you and just move on.
Right.
And just move on with your life.
I tell people that the child is the parent of the adult. And so your child is very powerful. It shapes the way you think right now. So you now need to return back to your childhood with adult eyes.
Exactly.
And forgive yourself and forgive others.
Exactly.
And begin to remember your calling and begin to move from that. Because that's when you become unstoppable.
Right. I've done a lot of retreats with women, and it is such a joy to see a woman who comes in on a Thursday evening hurting so much going on, and to see the bouquet of roses that leaves on a Sunday evening, because they have just evolved and they have just bloomed and they have just healed from so much things, and a lot of times they really don't know the baggages that they are carrying, because they look and they figure that I'm the only one going through this. But when they get together with like-minded people and say, hey, it's all right, let me empty out. Let me just extract and empty out and just live the life, the full life that I'm so deserving.
Absolutely.
It is so wonderful, Andrew, to be in your presence here. And I still don't know how many minutes we have remaining here. Okay. Oh, we have more than I thought. We still have 10 minutes. So I think we could start this section off with the 27 keys.
Okay, sure.
To growing a business in 90 days.
Sure. So I mentioned some of the other keys earlier when it comes to remembering your calling. I also talked about taking a focus on your underperforming assets. Also, what you now want to begin to do is ask yourself a very simple question. Once you remember what you're called to do, then you want to ask yourself, who else had a very similar calling, and how did they make money? Okay, so it was Booker T. Washington, the Wizard of Tuskegee, who said that success leaves footprints. And so there's always footprints that you can begin to follow when it comes to becoming successful in life. And so what you want to do now is ask yourself a very simple question. See, questions to me are more powerful than answers.
Yes.
And where you are in life is based upon the habitual questions you ask yourself. And so the new question I want for you to begin to ask yourself is, who else had a very similar calling, a similar passion, and how did they make money? Because by following those clues, then now you have a project. Then you now have a business that you can begin to focus on. So, for example, I convince all of my clients, regardless of the industry they're in, to write a book. If you look at most people who are on TV shows, on radio shows, they all have a book. And so everyone listening right now, they need to do a book. And I'll give you an example of a book that I wrote. And this book I wrote in just simply 15 minutes. Okay, this is a very simple book. And the book is entitled 21 Questions That Can Build Your Business in 90 Days. And so what you want to do is to begin to take your content and put it in a different context. And so my content is business wisdom. I place it in different contexts, and now I'm able to make some more money. And so why don't you open up the book and just turn to one of the pages, and why don't you read one of the questions. So basically the book consists of 21 questions. And so open up to one of the pages and read one of the questions.
Question 11 asks, how can you find similar clients?
Okay, good. And then what do you see after you read the question? What's next? What's right under the question?
Comments, ask for referrals. Most people don't.
Okay.
Separate yourself from the competition.
All right. So basically, this book is simply filled with a question at the top. There's space for you to write the answer, and there's a tip at the bottom. All right. So it's a perfect example of a simple book that I wrote in only 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And I've made thousands of dollars off of a 15-minute book. So my question to everyone who's watching us right now is, do you have 15 minutes? If you have 15 minutes, you can begin to brand yourself as an expert, because money flows to the expert as well as top dollars. Also, what I did was I produced an audio CD as well. So my 27 keys to growing any business in 90 days is also now an audio CD. So this is a 60-minute audio CD where I'm, going through step by step and showing people, practical concepts, proven concepts that can also increase their sales as well in 90 days. And so everyone out there, if you have 3 years experience in a certain topic, I want to suggest you, the first step I want you to do is to find a niche. Define a problem very, very clearly that somebody's having. Then I want you to begin to make up a list of several different ways that a problem can be solved. Each of those ways becomes a chapter in your book. Each of those ways become a technique you can share on an audio CD. And so by understanding that process of first finding a niche, finding a problem that the niche is experiencing, also make sure the problem is a problem that your niche is willing to pay for. Don't simply find the problem the one's willing to pay for it, because that equals no money. And then begin to document ways to solve that problem, and also then finally get testimonials, because what you say about yourself means absolutely nothing. What others say about you means everything.
That's right.
So you want to fill your book, your tape, your website with lots of testimonials.
And what we were continuing on the 27 keys to to growing your business in 90 days.
Right.
Okay. So we talk about developing products. You said anybody could write a book in 15 minutes because you have done it.
Right.
And it's amazing because a lot of people would think a book.
Right.
They're looking for something big and thick.
200-page book.
200 page, 500, 590 pages. But when you think about it, Andrew, very rarely someone is going to sit and read that book complete.
Right.
So why not give them a small book that they'll read and do a follow-up that you can have a second edition, and you know that you're really utilizing all the information in that book.
Yeah, I mean, I had a colleague of mine who's a real author. He's written 12 books.
And real author.
And he picked up my quote-unquote pamphlet. He said to me, Andrew, this really isn't a book. I said, but did you look at it? He goes, oh, yeah, I looked at it. The questions are great. It was really helpful. I said, well, you idiot, that's the purpose of it. You know
exactly, that's why. That's
right,
right. Exactly.
All right.
That's the reason.
Okay.
You're not. It's not that you're looking for a big fiction or non-fiction book for entertainment.
And especially now with this information age, we're overloaded with so much information that if you can begin to condense things and compact it into the most essential ingredients, people won't actually willing to pay you more money for the condensed version, for actually the long version. Because now you're telling me these are some of the key points I need to focus on.
Especially adults, Andrew. You know, I was in a meeting once, and just out of curiosity, I asked for a show of hands of all the adults who had a library card. And there were like 30 people there. And we did not have 12 hands up that own a reader card. So it just affirmed to me that adults are not reading as much as they ought to. Because if they do not have a library card to get the book from the library, they are certainly not going in the store to buy a book to read.
I mean, the typical American reads one book a year. It's a sad statement.
It is sad.
And the book they read is probably about the O.J. Simpson trial. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's probably
it's
nonsense.
crazy.
Okay.
Exactly.
So if you read simply 10 books a year, if you read one book a month, that puts you in the top 10% of all
right.
individuals.
That's right.
If you were to simply read 10 books on one topic, you then become the expert.
Exactly, exactly. And a lot of times people don't understand how much education that they can get from reading.
Yeah.
You know, because as you said, now is the information age. There's
Right.
so much out there on the internet. There's just so much information out there that one can really enhance their learning with.
Right.
We have another 3 minutes in here, and I know earlier on, and the viewers probably wondering why they're asking about time. We are just short staffed tonight, so we are really on skeletal crew. And before we had asked you for some summary thoughts, and you had done that. But we have another 3 minutes remaining in this episode. How would you like to close this episode out?
Sure. I would like to encourage people simply to take action, because this really isn't about knowledge. It's really about you learning, remembering to take action on what you already know. And so the Latin root for the word education, educate, doesn't mean to put in. The Latin root eduare means to pull out. So there's something that's already inside you that I hope this first part help you to pull out.
Exactly.
To help you know it's not only possible, but it's also necessary as well.
Just, we have 2 minutes, Andrew. You're saying this so quick, so we still have 2 minutes.
Okay, sure.
What's your 2 best points to close out this episode?
All right. What I also want to remind people is that it really isn't about you. That what you want to do, if you want to be successful when it comes to marketing, you have to be out of your mind. Okay, you can't be in your mind trying to solve a marketing problem or build your business.
Yes.
So something that I encourage our viewers to do is to go out there and begin to interview your prospects. Everyone should have some kind of a survey where you can ask people several questions. And it's amazing. People will tell you how to take their money.
That's right.
But oftentimes we're so caught up in our business,
In ourselves.
in our solution, that you want to get off your solution and focus on the customer's problem.
Exactly.
Not only do you want to focus on their problem, make their problem appear larger.
That's
The
right.
larger the problem, the more money that will come to you. All right. People buy aspirin when they have a headache. So I want you to go out there and give your clients a headache.
That's right. You, I know you are just so blessed at home. We are here with Mr. Andrew Morrison, the founder and CEO of Small Business Camp down in New York. And I just know that you are being empowered tonight and you're getting some good information to grow your business. And you have been tuned into A New Day, your guide to personal empowerment. We are on Charter on Saturdays at 7 p.m. and on Thursdays at noon. Here at home and Comcast, we are on Mondays at 7 p.m. and on Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. And out in St. Louis, Missouri, we are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we are looking to come to your city. Invite us.